Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today our guest is Dave Daley. Thanks for being on the show, Dave.
Hey, Whitney, thanks so much for inviting me on. I'm looking forward to connecting with your audience.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this too. I really enjoyed getting to know you. I know we've got to talk numerous times, over the last, few weeks, and I've enjoyed it a lot. And so I know you're going to bring some big value to the listeners. This is a big subject that everybody's looking to learn more about and trying to figure this out. And I know you're going to provide a lot of value and help us on that today. So quickly, I want to remind the listeners to go to Life Bridge Capital, where you can connect with me personally and also join the group, the Real Estate Syndication Show, so we can ask questions of experts like Dave and other people in the industry and connect and network and grow our businesses together. But a little about Dave. He is a straight talking authority on business leadership and personal branding. He draws upon his more than 20 years of hands-on experience as a salesperson, entrepreneur, and CEO to deliver an experience that is both entertaining and educational in every one of his speaking engagements. His techniques reinforce his core principle that branding 101 is never let them forget you. Never let them forget you. That's incredible, Dave. That's so true, right? So true. Yeah, but you tell the listeners a little more about who you are, what you do, and then let's jump into this topic that everybody's trying to, or if you're in business, you need to be thinking about, right?
Yeah, it really is. It's interesting. I talk about branding in 2020 versus 2004. So many people are stuck in that 2004 time, and the evolution that we're experiencing in the last 15 to 20 years is unprecedented, absolutely unprecedented. But give you a little bit of little kind of 30,000 foot view of who I am, where I came from, and where I see myself going. To be really honest with you, Whitney, I'm not even actually supposed to be here. Growing up, I could start from the very beginning. I was put up for adoption at birth. The first 18 months of my life, I was in an orphanage in North Philly. I'm from the East Coast, and left back in the second grade, diagnosed with ADD, said I had a learning disorder, never graduated high school. At 19, I'm sitting in a jail cell looking at 8 to 10 if things don't go my way. And that's just the first 19 years. But if we go back around to that real quickly, I was brought up very fortunate. I was adopted by two amazing individuals. My mom was the definition of unconditional love, and I tested that unconditional numerous times, Whitney. She came through with flying colors. But I grew up in a push-pull environment. The professionals with all the degrees on the wall said, and I have air quotes there, so there's something wrong with me, right? I'm broken because I can't learn in that cookie cutter mode. But my mom never bought into it. She told me from the time that I could remember that I was a gift from God, and that anything that I actually wanted to do, she would support me and I could do it. So it was that push-pull environment. So I was very, very fortunate. Even though she wasn't my biological mom, there was no doubt that the universe said, she's your mom, and this is how it's supposed to unfold. So very, very fortunate. And one of my keynotes is the power of perception. And I share the whole evolution of being adopted and bring everybody through to the very full circle to where I was very, very fortunate to be able to show my mom and dad right at the very end that I was there for them like they were there for me. So that's a little bit of a 30,000 foot view of me personally, professionally. Once they kicked me out of high school, I realized I had the entrepreneurial DNA, like my mom told me. And my other keynote I talk about is my Tommy story. And I had a gentleman come into my life early on, and except for my mom, he was the first successful adult that said he believed in me and showed me that he believed in me. And he taught me how to cold call, business to business, 40 to 50 cold calls a day. And he gave me the confidence, the courage to be able to walk in, and the self-image to be able to walk into any business, look somebody in the eye, introduce yourself, and figure out how to get to the decision maker. And those tools helped me over the last 20 plus years build and sell 3 companies in 3 different industries. I'm such a big believer, Whitney, that it's actually not what you do, but it's how you do it. And between the 3 businesses, 2 of them were service based and the other was product based. So again, it's not what you do, but it's absolutely how you do it. And that's evolved now into business coaching. And we work with Daley International. We work with commission sales, higher end commission sales, business owners in the multiple 6 and 7 figures, because that's been my world for the last 20 plus years, on how to brand in 2020 versus 2004. And when everything is said and done, my real theme, my real message maps back to one thing: trust. See, I believe that your brand loyalty, both personal and professional in today's world, is king. The reason it's king is because it maps to trust.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I mean, trust. If people don't trust you, so in our business, most of the listeners they're either passive investors or they are trying to connect with investors, right? And that relationship is all built on trust. And so, and it starts with the brand, right? That's where they first probably see, just like myself or other listeners, they see us first, they see our brand, and then they're intrigued by that. And then over a period of time, we connect or whatever, but it's through that trust where we actually will do business together. Right. And so, get us started though about this branding in 2020, because you say it so well, the branding, in 2004 versus 2020. I mean, so many people are stuck in 2004, right? Well, I've still got my old website, or I've got a website, or yeah, I've been on Facebook a little bit. But get us started thinking different, from 2004 to 2020, and what some things we should be doing today that maybe we don't know to do.
Yeah, and here's a great way to kind of tie that into a nice bow is 2004. It was what you know and who you know. 2020, it's what you know, it's who you know, but just as important, who knows you. And that's so important to understand, right? And the evolution and the power behind our personal brand in 2020 versus 2004 is night and day, right? And when you can build and explode your personal brand in your flavor, now what happens is you create that trust. And if you look back years ago, the big companies, Pepsi, Coke, Coca-Cola, Nike, Adidas, they all look for, and their money goes to, at the end of the day, when you clear all the smoke clears, it is about trust, right? When they have a sponsored athlete or an entertainer and that sponsored athlete goes sideways, what do? They put all their money into PR. They don't want to lose that trust, right? It's evolved so much now in the business world that when you can build and explode your personal brand and your flavor, your business brand now starts to follow. Back in the day, it was reverse, right? It was so important to focus on your business brand. Today, I believe it's flip-flop. I believe with the platforms that we have available, social media, podcast, webinars, physical stages, when you focus on your personal brand, your business brand will follow.
I like that. So tell me, let's talk about that personal brand and how do you get started with a personal brand, and what does that mean really to have a personal brand, and how let's dive into that a little bit.
Well, let's do this, right? Let's anybody here listening that is on any social media platform, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any of them, you're a global brand, whether you like it or not, right? You're a global brand. So now you understand that, and I'm sure 99.9% of the people watching and listening to this have some sort of platform, right? So now that you can understand and wrap your brain around, great, I am a global brand because of these platforms. Now, how do we enhance that? And what I have a 90-day brand builder boot camp, and we focus on bringing your brand to the masses in your flavor. And one of the things that I do that before we do anything, and before I talk about this, let me just give a little context here. I'm a big believer that you need the combination of practical and personal development. And I believe that any program that doesn't have personal development in it is just incomplete, because personal development is life 101. And one of the things that I do with my clients is, before we do anything, once we decide to work together and there's a synergy, we don't go any further until we capture what I call 7 levels deep. 7 levels deep on your why. Here's what happens. Here's why this is so magical, Whitney, is every person that I've, including myself, that I've gone through this formula with, has not failed. We've ended in the same place. So the first 3 levels, you bring in your mind, your head, right? The practical. The third 3 levels starts to bring your heart. And the 7th level, it's a magical level. You combine your heart, your head, and your soul. And every single person I've worked with, Whitney, no matter what industry they're in, when we get to that 7th level, it's not about them. And here's why that's so magical. When you hit those fear barriers, when you hit those stoppers, right? When you hit those valleys, because you're going after something that scares you and excites you at the same time, here's what happens. When your why becomes bigger than you become unstoppable. And this 7 levels deep gets you there. And it's such a great blueprint to refer back to. I literally, I utilize my 2 7 levels deep every single morning in my Monster Momentum morning.
Love that. You're speaking my language. I was just speaking at a conference last weekend, and I was talking about some personal branding and what we have done, but I started with our why, and how we got to our why and why it's so important. And one thing that I think is unique about having a why, like you just talked about, is that other people get behind you. Like, they may not care about your profession or care really about your services, but they'll get behind you and support you because of your why, because that's something they're passionate about as well.
Man, it's so true. I just read this quote, Tyler Jack Harris on Instagram, great guy if you want to follow him. But I'm going to paraphrase this, but he said, people don't do business. People don't want to know what business you're in. They want to know why you're in that business, right? And when you can, and that parlays into one of the things I'm going to be sharing a PDF with your audience. But one of the things that I really, I'm a big believer in is, again, the mystic, tying in the mystic with the practical, right? In today's world. And the why, a lot of people think more of the mystic end of it, and it's so important. And then I want to share some real practical steps. And one of the ways to answer your question in a different way is, how do you explode that personal brand, is to understand how to create your signature story. And I have a blueprint on that, on creating your signature story, because at the end of the day, people do business with who they trust. The only way to show trust is, and I'm such a big believer in this, that it's on all my marketing, your vulnerability becomes your credibility. So my intro, when I walk into a physical stage, is he's built and sold 3 companies in 3 different industries, but he's also crashed one to the ground. Because that's where so much of my value I can bring to the table with my coaching clients, with my speaking engagements, whether it's digital or physical, because that wisdom that I acquired, and in that window of time, Whitney, there's not a university in this world that could give me that wisdom, that real world experience. I always say, keep the theory on the shelf, right? That gets in the way. I want the real stuff from the people that have been there and done it. So this is called your signature story. And again, I'll share a PDF that anybody can download it. And it's very simple. It's 4 steps. The first is connect, and that's connect with your heart. So you want to share a personal story that connects with your audience. Okay. Next is going to be the head. Teach some real practical steps that you've actually utilized prior. Third is connect again, but now either leave an open loop with that first story and finish that up, or tie in another story that's even more powerful that connects on another level. So it's going from, I'm a big believer, heart, head, soul. And last but not least is social proof. Share those testimonials. But here's where a lot of people think social proof is their just their clients, right? Or just their customers. No, share the social proof of what you've actually done as well. So now when you connect, teach, connect along with social proof, that's going to map to the ultimate power, and that's trust.
Love it. I love it because I've seen it happen personally, and as we're, think about our story and how we really let people know our story. But I've seen it happen in other people, and that's helped me to be better at that. But I appreciate you elaborating on, your signature story, because that's what people remember. There's lots of people that do the business, that whatever your business is, including myself, there's so many of us, right, that are pursuing the same path, the same career path, where, this entrepreneur real estate business. But you're going to be distinguished because of your story and your brand. But ultimately, your story is what's going to connect with somebody.
100%. And I have so many people that I work with that they're so afraid of being vulnerable, right? They're so afraid of that big monster under the bed is what I call it. And once we can start to break through that, the strength and the power and that what I call that bulletproof self-image, because I believe that you can build your self-image up, you can tear it down, but you cannot outperform it. And I'm so passionate about creating a bulletproof self-image that I always say that the greatest gift that any adult can give any child, whether it's your child or not, is a bulletproof self-image, because you're going to teach that child that they can fish for themselves and nobody has to fish for them. And that, to me, is the ultimate gift that you could give any child. So everything really does map back to that bulletproof self-image.
Wow. Okay. So we've figured out our why. We know we have to have a signature story, and why that's so important. What's after that? How do we kind of continue this branding, our personal branding process?
Yeah. So on the practical end, one of the things that I love to teach and show people that they can implement instantly and evolve it, right, is what's called the 3 C's in branding and marketing. And I've actually done that in my book. I don't have a copy on me, and I did that in my chapters in my book. But if you follow the 3 C's, this is a blueprint that you will connect with that trust every single time. And it takes a lot of the guesswork out. And first is curiosity, right? You want to connect. You want to turn heads. You want to get attention, right? Second C is creativity, right? You want to be able to create that creativity in your flavor, right? So what happens is when you start to implement the first 2 C's, you start to attract your ideal clientele. You start to attract your ideal audience, because you get their attention with the first C, right? The second C is that creativity, whether it's your it's your content for your emails, for your webinars, or whether that is your signature talk for your digital and physical stages. And the third C is connection. Curiosity, get their attention. Don't let them forget you. Creativity, do it in your flavor. Third leads to connection. Connection leads to trust.
That's awesome. It's awesome. And your brand and your story, all that's leading right through those C's that you're talking about, the curiosity, the creativity. And so, yeah, it's great how you've laid all this out too. And it's like, it's easier to follow thinking about it that way as well. So a few more questions though, before we run out of time, Dave. This has been really good. So what's been the hardest part of the branding journey for you, or maybe, your clients? I know you're coaching many people and through this branding process. What's the common theme that you see like that holds people up from making this happen?
Definitely 100% is, I wrote a book, an ebook and a regular book, soft cover back book, and it all talking about how to crush those dreaded fear barriers. And there's so many fear barriers that people are afraid of, but the number one fear that everyone has is the fear of what other people think, right? That's why they're so afraid to be vulnerable. But here's what I say. I'm going to give you all your audience, a very quick and effective hack on how to crush that dreaded fear barrier on what people think. At the end of the day, we are human beings, so we are going to judge. That's a fact. When you can understand that and wrap your brain around that, now we can take the next step. Okay, great. You're going to judge. I'm going to judge. That's who we are. We're human beings. But when you can wrap your brain around, you're going to be judged. Your only job is to make them accurate. Okay? And here's what I mean by that. I used to own a sports nutrition store here in Southern California, and I hear all the time, I'd get to know my customers, and they'd come in, we'd help them with their meal plans and their diets and their workouts. And I'd hear this all the time. And I actually hear it from stage a lot too. God, you're so much nicer than we thought. See, because I'm judged, right, by my appearance, but my only job is to make them accurate, right? And when you can wrap your brain around that, and here's the other thing I want to share with you when it comes to that is, and again, that maps to, they're so afraid to be vulnerable. They're so afraid. And once we break them through that, they understand the power within them, right? Now you just face that fear. And I wrote a book an ebook back in 2012. It's called The Monster Under the Bed. Now you're 10 years old. You're in your room. The lights are out. It's pitch dark. You're under the covers and you hear this sound. And you know for sure it's a big green hairy monster ready to come out and eat you, right? Now we've all been there, right? I mean, I was just there last week. So what happens is when an adult comes in, turns on the lights, you look under the bed, what is it? There's no monster. And it's the exact same thing that happens when we become adults. We create this big green hairy monster, and we know for sure that it's here to eat us until we turn on those lights and look under the bed. And that's what I love to help people do, along with real practical steps that I've actually utilized in building and selling 3 companies in 3 different industries.
Love it. That's awesome. That is awesome. So tell us one thing, or one way that you've recently improved your business that we could apply to ours.
What we're doing right now, podcast is such a powerful tool on both ends, whether you create your own or you get on as many as you can that has your ideal audience in it. And I know me and you talked about this when we first met. I have never been introduced to a platform that creates a connection so quickly, so deep, and so long term. I had a show called Monster Motivator TV, 2016 and 17, and we did close to 80 episodes. You could see us on the YouTube channel, but and it was a mobile podcast, so we were live. And the relationships that I built from that show are still, most of them are still so powerful because of podcasts, and that's why we launched Brand Builder TV, and so we can teach you how to rise above the noise and elevate your position in your industry.
What's the one thing that's contributed to your success, Dave?
I couldn't articulate it until I had him on my show. So our last episodes was Tom Bilyeu from Quest Bars. And if anybody doesn't know Tom Bilyeu, he's co-founder of Quest Protein Bars. 2010, him and his partners built a brand from scratch, from zero to an evaluation of $1.2 billion in 2017. And and when I had him on the show, I said, Tom, you've created a ton of value, but we're going to get really right down to it. If you have one thing to leave your audience, and I couldn't articulate this until he said this, but it absolutely maps back to my success as well. When I want to learn something new, I find that person or those people and I sit at their feet. Now, let's put that into context and perspective. You're talking about a man that's built $1 billion brand in less than 8 years, and he's still humble enough to say, when I want to learn something new, I sit at their feet. Think about that, right? I mean, it still gives me the chills. So when I want to learn something new, I sit at their feet and I search for the people that have been there and done it.
Wise words, that's for sure.
Yes.
No doubt about it. And that's not always easy for us all to do, is it?
No.
We feel like we know where we have the answers most of the time, I think. But yeah, wise words. So before we have to go, tell us how you like to give back.
I love. Well, I'm a big proponent and supporter of rescues in the canine world, especially pit bulls. So I give to nonprofits. That's just a big. I have 3 or 4 nonprofits in that world that I give back to. I love talking and impacting kids, because again, I think it all comes down to that self-image, and that's going to dictate. And I was so fortunate to have a mom that helped build my self-image from early on, and I give her so much credit for that. So those 2 worlds, big passion for me.
Wow. Well, Dave, this has been a great show. I can't thank you enough for your time and just elaborating on the branding from 2004 to 2020, because it is so different. And I just appreciate you just blasting that out, because it's hard to wrap our mind around that. I think a lot of times we're kind of stuck with that old website that we had, 15 years ago, and we haven't done anything to it, right? We're still, we haven't changed our ways of branding, but it has changed. And I just appreciate you going through so many steps that we can just take today to increase our brand and our story and just the importance of that. But right now, it's important that you tell everybody how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, I am not hard to find. So I'm on all the social media platforms. We just got on TikTok, and I'm trying to figure out how to learn it. So, I'll be looking for a 12-year-old little kid to teach me. So Dave Daley, DALEYMM, like monstermotivator.com. And that's pretty much my handles on all the social media, and would love to connect. If anybody has any questions, we're going to send you over the PDF for the signature blueprint. And love to connect. And
then where can they find your book?
You can go to Amazon. It's Knock Out Fear in the First Round. It's on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com as well. And our website is davedaley, DALEYMM.com.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by Life Bridge Capital. Life Bridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. Life Bridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.